Today I am joined by the amazing Sheila, and I'm really excited to chat to Sheila today because Sheila's got some amazing results over the last 6 or 7 months that we've been working together. And yeah, really looking forward to diving into that. But before we do, Sheila, how's your day going so far?
Oh, it's going very well. Always easy to be in good form when the sun is shining, and we're able to not wear 17 layers when we're, sitting in the coldest room of the house working from home.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like a heat wave today. It's like I think
Yeah,
24, 25 degrees, so wish it was
yeah.
like this every day.
26 here.
Is it?
Yeah.
Amazing, good stuff. You know, one of the reasons why I was really excited about recording this call today is because I think a lot of people will find your story inspiring and just show like what's possible, and you're like a walking testament to that. So I'm really excited to dive into, some of the things that results that you've achieved and stuff like that. But before we get into that, I was wondering, first of all, like what were some challenges that you were facing before we started working together?
Well, uh, I don't know. It had started before COVID. My I thought it was unexplained weight gain, that the scales just seem to be, drifting upwards all the time. It coincided with menopause, so uh, I basically was blaming that for everything because, other than the fact that then COVID in 2020 brought about the work from home, and my main form of exercise before then had been swimming 2 or 3 mornings a week on the way to work. Um, and I no longer could do that. Um, I didn't see that I had made any other changes in my life. I was eating the same foods, which I mostly prepare from scratch, in the same quantities. And um, when everybody else was, especially in the first year, with lots of working from home and lockdowns and everything else, everybody else was drinking so much more. I was drinking less, so there wasn't that to blame. Um, so I said it has to just be menopause because I felt like I was gaining weight from fresh air. Yeah, that was, I felt the I put all the blame there,
Hmm. Yeah,
and the fact that I couldn't swim, I knew that was definitely a factor. Um, yeah,
I think that's a pretty common experience for many women, especially once they kind of enter menopause, because so many, different things change, especially hormonally, with like your estrogen and your progesterone and stuff like that. And it's really interesting that during the pandemic, you were almost living a healthier life because, like you said, less alcohol and
yeah.
you were still doing a lot of the same things. So, um, that's part of the reason why I'm really excited to get into the results in a little bit because anyone else who is maybe around a similar age or who is in menopause, they've probably experienced something similar, and you will be a beacon of hope of exactly what's possible, So, but before we dive into that, like, what were so then when you were, experiencing that and you were in menopause, like, what were some specific issues that were popping up or you were experiencing at the time then?
Um, I yeah, I suppose I didn't really feel that I had issues other than the weight gain. Now, as that was building up over the number of years, it had got to the point where it was affecting my mental health for sure. Um, I Yeah, it definitely was. It was always there at the back of my mind. Um, I adore clothes. I love to shop. I love to win. I just love to browse even. And yeah, I was like, but buying bigger and bigger sizes all the time was soul destroying. Didn't stop me, but it was soul destroying.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and I've told you this before. Um, when I turned 60 in October, I decided that I wasn't having a party because, um, well, apart from the fact that I'm uncomfortable being the center of attention, um, I had bought a dress that I figured I could wear for my sister's 60th. She was supposed to have a party. She ended up not, a year and a half before my own. And at the time I bought it, I thought, I need to lose a few pounds around my stomach, which was probably a little bit of, putting a gloss on what I needed to lose. But that was where it was noticeable in the dress. And um, by the time it was a year after her 60th, not only could I not fit into the dress, but by the time it was my own 60th, not a sniff of getting into the dress.
Mhm.
And I wasn't going buying something new, something bigger again. Um, and yeah, that I think was the kick that said, right, this isn't going anywhere. Um, and yeah, I think that was enough of an impetus to say, you know, and I had joined a program. I think it might have been 3 years ago, and had lost, about maybe 8 pounds or something. Um, and that was in the lead up to the last wedding I'd been to. And but while it was a step in the right direction, once we got back from the wedding, I was like, oh yeah, I can do this, but
Mhm.
I just sort of, yeah. Um,
Got it.
it was just weight, or it was only focused on what you ate. There was nothing else to it.
Mhm.
And yeah.
So that approach that you did before, that was kind of a bit unsustainable, or it wasn't kind of like comprehensive. Um,
Yeah, it wasn't comprehensive. There was nothing to it other than, okay, learned a bit more about food, learned about complex carbs, but um, and it was better than the one I had done to lose the baby weight, and back in 2009. But still, it didn't address how I'm going to live the rest of my life.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously that's something that we've really focused on a lot, and we can get into that. But just to recap on everything that you said there, so essentially it was like a bit of a vicious cycle. You came back from that wedding, and then the pandemic happened, and then you were starting to gain a bit of weight, and then that was increasing your clothes size, and then that was having a knock-on effect on your mental health and your confidence, and so it's just a bit of a downward kind of spiral.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Okay, and then so obviously we had our initial consultation. Let me think, it's June now, so it would have been around like November time.
yeah.
So I was wondering, like, what doubts did you have before investing in the program, or what were you thinking before joining?
Um, I didn't have a lot of doubts, um, because yeah, I thought there's something to this. There's um, it's a multi-pronged approach, and yeah, you know, in all aspects of healthcare, I think they are the only ones that long-term work. I think that in aspects of medicine where they only look at fixing one part of you, it's yeah, it's going to break again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was the finance. Um, and I did, I just gotten an estimate about a whole load of dental work that has to be done. So I postponed that. And yeah, that really was the only thing. I said I need to lose this weight before I go at my teeth because that
Mhm.
is going to take longer.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's like that's always that's a big barrier for many people, you know.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's scary to make an
Yeah.
investment in yourself.
Yes.
But you know, in hindsight now that you're like 6 or 7 months into the program and you've obviously got a lot of amazing results, which we'll get to in a second, do you feel like that investing in yourself was worth it now looking back, or how do you feel about it?
Well, it's the first time I've really ever spent anything on just me. But I feel that not only have I got a benefit, many benefits, but I feel that my kids have got the benefit of me. Um, and, you know, the people in my life that matter to me have got the benefit of, if they want me around for longer, I think they'll have me. Yeah,
Nice. And I'm sure they do want you around for longer. So.
but I hope so. Yeah,
Nice. No, that's amazing. Yeah, that's like that's my one of the driving factors behind why I feel so passionate about working with so many people because it's like I know the science that if you get fitter, you get stronger, you have more energy, you sleep better, you have less stress, that automatically adds on anywhere from like 1 to maybe even like 7 or 8 years onto your life, and it's like what is an extra year of your life worth? Or even it's just like
yeah,
quality of your life. If the quality of your life is that much better because you've got more energy and your mental health is better, it's like what price can you even put on that? It's like
yeah.
it's
Actually, you've reminded me. Um, I have a Bluetooth smart weighing scales, and it had gone up to, and this was when I was 59, that my metabolic age was 65. And it's bad enough weighing yourself, but then when it tells you you're 6 years older than you are. So, it's quite a relief to see I'm now at the same metabolic and calendar age.
nice, good
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, that's not the sort of thing you want to see, especially if it's like 7 o'clock in the morning and you're like, oh, that's
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
only six
yeah,
years older. But
exactly.
so yeah, it'd be good to get through, have a chat about like what some of your first breakthroughs were. So just while we're on the topic of the metabolic age, so when you were 59, the scales were telling you you were 65, and like what are you as of right now or recently?
Yeah, well, I think before I put in my last or before it took my last stats, I know I had come down to 61 in it. So I'm assuming that I have come down to 60,
Nice.
fingers crossed.
That's pretty
Um,
good. So yeah, just so from that
yeah, yes, I am.
metric,
I am metabolic age of 60.
nice.
So the next goal is break the barrier.
Yeah, and I've seen that before. People like as you continue to get fitter and stronger and just prioritize your self-care, there's a lot of people who can bring it down, and it could be like 5 or 6 years minus your actual age.
Yeah, your actual age.
So
Yeah.
your metabolic age has dropped 5 years in uh,
6 years, 6 years,
sorry,
59.
it's dropped six
Well,
years
yeah, yeah, yeah,
in a 6 month time frame.
yeah,
So that's pretty cool. I wonder what's going to happen over the next 6 or 12 months. You might
yeah,
they're 2 or 3 years off it. So
yeah.
that's really cool. And so like when you were a few months into the program, like what do you feel like what was like your first really big breakthrough?
Um, well, I remember saying to you early on that there's no way I am going to be weighing food and stuff. So I think that is probably, I there I was with the weighing scale saying I said I wasn't doing this, but it was actually easy. And I realized, okay, so uh, one big thing you've been doing, Sheila, is you've probably been eating for two or three people. And, it hits you like, repeatedly being hit on the head with a brick.
So you were starting to track more and just getting a better idea of what was right
Yeah,
for your body and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And when you eat the right things, like I've never been hungry.
Yeah.
Never, never. And even days I don't eat my allowance and I'm still on the weight loss allowance, I'm never hungry.
Yeah.
Okay, I might crave an extra piece of chocolate, but that, I just adore chocolate. But
Mhm.
I'm never hungry.
Yeah, that's amazing because if we look at your total results, so how much in total have you lost now between clothes or weight on the scales?
I have lost just over in old currency. I have lost about 30 pounds.
That much? Wow. I
Yeah,
didn't even realize. I knew it was around the 2 stone mark, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
30, that's
So I reached my target weight. I had set myself in, as a stretch goal, so that there would be like lots of room to maneuver and go on a week's holidays and not have just this guilt hanging over me. So I am I'm working towards the stretch goal.
nice, good stuff. So you've lost just over 2 stone, and in your
Yeah.
clothes, like how many clothes sizes is that?
So I've gone from yeah, shall we say, struggling into a 14 to somewhere between a 10 and a 12.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And going back to what you said earlier about your mental health and how you're feeling in your clothes, like how would you rate your mental health and how you feel in your clothes
Oh,
versus before?
yeah. Yeah. So I just, um, I've been seeing a counselor for a number of years, and in the last 6 months, I have been just regularly postponing my catch-up session because I'm at a point where it's a check-in, and so I might see him twice a year. I might see him a bit more often if if something's happening. But I just keep moving it out. And yeah, I just feel, yeah, on top of the world.
Amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. That's really good. But would probably be good to go back and see the counselor. He might be worried about where you're at.
Oh, yeah, 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 he knows. He knows.
That's good. Nice. That's amazing. Good stuff. And so I suppose most importantly, especially since you've done other programs in the past, do you feel like a lot of the changes that we've made in terms of, the mindset work with your food, your training, sleep, self-care, all that type of stuff, do you feel like that's been a sustainable change and something that you can continue with now for years to come or?
Yeah, I've come to depend on getting outside after work. Um, so while I mightn't do it, as time goes on, 5 times a week, but I definitely see myself doing it 3, 4 times a week.
Mhm.
Um, I when I started the program, I didn't have a problem sleeping, but I said to you then that I sleep absolutely fine, no trouble getting to sleep, getting back to sleep if I get up to go to the loo, but I wake up feeling not refreshed. Now I'm waking up feeling refreshed.
Yeah, and that
It's
happened.
great. Like it's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that like happened within like the first kind of 3 or 4 weeks. Once you started joining a couple of the classes, I think you were even just training like 2 times a week for 30 minutes initially, and then obviously doing some one-to-ones as well, and just making some small changes. Like, and
Yeah.
there's a couple, I think you started using some magnesium as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So just a few small changes, and then your energy, I think, was the thing that was kind of the first thing that came up quite,
Yeah.
quickly, which was
Yeah.
great to see. And with the classes as well, because I know a lot of people are like they're not sure about how well the classes would work. Like what's your experience been of joining all the classes that I run like via Zoom and over a 30-minute period and stuff like that?
Yeah, I am. I still, don't like to get out of bed, but I'm, when I'm, when we're 5 minutes in, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, this is it. And I always prefer to get my exercise over in the morning.
Mhm.
Walking after work is great. Um, but I like to do my vigorous exercise first thing. I think a lot of women do because then we can shower and we're not messy or have to shower twice or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you offer me 5 more minutes in bed, I'm always going to volunteer to take them. I don't know if that'll ever change, but I'm, 5 minutes in, I'm like, yes, yeah,
Good stuff, yeah. And for anyone like watching this, the classes that I run are the morning classes are Wednesdays and Fridays at 7:30 a.m. So obviously getting up at around the 7 a.m. mark, it's never really easy, especially if you've got a long day of work ahead. But like you said, once you kind of get into it a little bit, then it starts to flow a bit, and it gets easier. So no, that's amazing. I really appreciate you sharing all that. And so just to finish off, like with your overall experience of the program over the last 6 or 7 months, like who do you feel like the program would be most beneficial for, or like who would you recommend it to?
um, well, I think, um, and one of the women I was chatting to on the last community day, um, and I was asking why she joined, and um, it's the it's one of the number one things that made all the difference for me: the accountability. If you need somebody to keep you straight, um, and even though it's a Sunday afternoon, you're enjoying yourself or you're whatever, and the ping comes in. So what classes are you coming to? And you're like, go away, Elan. It's the weekend. Let me enjoy myself. But that's it. That's, I I told you at the beginning, yeah, I don't want my boyfriend saying, so are you going to class tomorrow morning? Because all I want to do is hit him on the head, you know. Um, you want somebody that uh, keeps you honest and like gets you to say, okay, I'm going.
Yeah.
Not your friend because you don't want to bite their head off, not your boyfriend, not one of your kids, whatever. So yeah, somebody who now I have a will of steel once it's engaged. So for people who need that impetus to get their own motivation going, I think that's who the course will, suit the best. Um, yeah,
Amazing. Good stuff. Yeah, I think it's a real fine balance as well, isn't it? Of like you don't want to overload someone with too much either. And that's why like, on the Sunday I just popped that one message in the
yeah,
group to get everyone to vote and let me know like what they're joining.
yeah,
I think, you don't need to some people I think go a bit overboard with how much they message people or email or
yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm more kind of focused on what's like the simplest way we could do it. And
yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's
And
obviously
it's like,
working.
we're not kids.
Yeah.
We're not teenagers who have to be, you know, but we want the accountability. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a really good point as well. It never works if it's a partner or if it's a
Yeah.
friend, because that's how a lot of friendships and relationships go sour,
Yeah.
So it's because it's even the same for me, like I have coaches and they're objective, so it's easier for someone who's
Yes.
to give you that bit of
Yeah.
ability or, kind of pull you up on stuff when you need to if you're gone a bit astray or whatever.
Yeah.
So no, that's amazing. Really appreciate you sharing all that and I hope this video was, inspiring for anyone who was watching it. And yeah, if you'd like to book a free consultation, I'll leave a link down below where you can book that. And yeah, I'll end the recording here and we can have a quick chat after. And thanks very much, Sheila. It was great to chat.
Welcome.